There we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Thursday morning's podcast webinar. I am Chloe Tetro. I am the health coach here with Ready Care. And for this morning, we're going to be looking at habit audits and what that means. It's that time of year, it's January time. It's time to kind of look ahead at the year and the month and see what type of habits are in place towards your goals, towards where you want to be going at for this 2023 year. So for this morning, we're just going to have a quick overview at what are habits, what is the science behind habits, cue and rewards. So what's involved in cue and rewards when we're looking at habit formation. We're going to have a look at what is a habit audit and maybe a few tips and tricks along the way. So to begin with, what are habits? We kind of know this off the cuff, what are habits? Habits are basically routine behaviors that are repeated regularly. And they tend to occur subconsciously. So outside of our conscious awareness, there are lots of different behaviors that we have, and those are what would be called habits. They are essential to our daily lives. They happen all day. They help us perform tasks automatically without thinking. So if you think of, for example, brushing your teeth in the morning, you might have a whole morning routine. And half of those, you could be halfway through the routine and go, oh, cheapers. I didn't even realize I was sticking the toast in the toaster. Maybe not toast for us, but sticking the bacon in the air fryer. So they've been studied extensively in the field of neuroscience, and it's been found that they're formed through a process known as habituation. So habit, habituation, which is the repetition of a behavior that leads to it becoming automatic. So that's kind of the broad overview of what a habit is. So let's get down into the nitty-gritty of what the science is regarding habits. So with regards to getting stuck in a little bit more, the science looks at what habits are and where they're formed. So in our brain, they are specifically formed in the basal ganglia, which is a region of the brain that plays a critical role in motor control and habit formation. So the research has shown that the basal ganglia is responsible for the formation of habits through a process also called chunking, where lots of complex behaviors, they're broken down into smaller, simpler actions and performed automatically. So when a behavior is repeated frequently, the neural connections in the basal ganglia, they become stronger and more efficient. So it's easier for you to get somewhere in the brain with less energy when you do it over and over, because the brain is trying to help. God love it, the best it can. So when you repeat something over and over, it tries to fortify the pathways that get you there so that it takes up less energy to get there. There's also the prefrontal cortex, which would be responsible for decision making. That is also involved in habit. So habit does play a huge role in our daily lives. Everything from our eating habits to what we choose to do in our day in, day out. They're essential to a fulfilling life, and they can be kind of things that work with you or things that work against you. So it is essential to have a look at habits and make sure that they are things that are moving you in the direction that you hope to go in. What we'll see here, and what you may have noticed in your own life, is that a lot of our habits can be out of our consciousness. They can be things that we find ourselves doing that we may not necessarily understand why we're doing it and whether it's something that is supporting us or bringing us to a place that when we have a look at our life overall, there's a degree of dissatisfaction. And that's really something that, we've all experienced at some point, and it's something that I hear back from clients is a degree of feeling like there's no time, no energy, that there is, a kind of sleepwalk process, and finding that they're moving in a direction, the trajectory that they're going on, they're not particularly happy with. But we'll have a look now at the cues and rewards aspects of habits and see that actually there's an awful lot of time and there is an awful lot of energy put towards habits. It's just making sure to trim away the ones that are not particularly working for you at this point, and to really have a look at the ones that can support you a little bit better. So what is cue and rewards? So cue and rewards is, if we break down the mechanism of a habit, it really boils down to cue and reward. So they're not just the actions that we repeat, they're also deeply ingrained in our identity. So, you've heard that saying, which I'm going to murder because I'm absolutely terrible at remembering sayings, but it's not what, look, who you are is what you do. So it may not be what you think, may not be your opinions, it's what you actually choose to do. That becomes an integral part of how we self-define and how others define us in our identity. So the cue and reward system is activation in different brain regions, like the ventral stratum and the brain region that is most associated with pleasure, motivation, and reward, which makes sense. You're doing an action because of what you will get from it. There's very, very little in life that we do for absolutely no reason. Sometimes it can be things that are a little bit more obscure. You're not entirely sure why, but you have a look and you go, oh, okay, it's because I didn't, I was moving away from this other action I didn't want to perform. So it's why habits are so powerful, and they're triggered by the cues. They give us a rewarding feeling even before we finish the action, which can be very hard to change or break. The cue and reward concept is a key driver of habit formation, which you're probably getting because I'm really hammering it home here. The cue is the trigger, which is the thing that initiates the habit. It can be a specific time of day, it can be a location, it can be an emotion, or even a specific person. And the reward is the positive outcome or the benefit that we get from completing the habit. So I'll give you an example to put it into real world scenarios. So the specific time of day can be the end of a work day, the second you get home. The specific location being home. The emotion is, I'm wrecked and I need some me time. And what you can find is you naturally gravitate towards the couch. So it's the end of the day, you naturally gravitate towards the couch, you sit down on the couch and you find yourself maybe an hour later scrolling or watching something that you're not particularly into, and you find yourself not particularly enjoying it. But it's something that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you tend to repeat. So what's happening there is that the trigger is, as soon as you get home, as soon as you see the couch, your body, because it's been primed by your brain to associate the visual cue with an action, will naturally gravitate towards the couch and sit down. And it's become a type of daily ritual that you have. So that same person at the end of the week could go, oh, I'd love to go to the gym, or I'd love to spend more time with my kids. I just don't seem to find the time for it. Whereas in actuality, if we're looking at the overall picture of the habit, there is a very, no, this is a kind of red flag habit I've put out. It's a very normal one. Everybody has something like that in their life where it's so automatic that it doesn't even come into the head, and you'll find you've an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, depending on the person, where that huge chunk of time is taking you away from things that you actually want, to do in your life and in your day. So you have your reward here, because you kind of go, okay, well, I see about the trigger aspect, but where is the reward in that? And the reward in that could literally be me time. That's what I mentioned at the start. Now, that's an example. There could be lots of different rewards for that. But the specific example person has identified couch time as me time. And they've made that association in their brain as, I deserve me time, everybody should have me time. But the way that they're conducting their me time is actually taking away from what they want long term. So in order to change a habit, you do need to identify the cue and the reward associated with it. Once you've identified the cue and the reward, you can then experiment with different behaviors that provide the same reward, but are more beneficial. So for our example of this person, is there a better way for them to get that me time? Is there a way that they can align what they want long term what brings them joy in their life, what is valuable to them, and utilize that kind of context to provide themselves with the reward, which is me time. So another example could be snacking in front of the TV with a loved one. So that can be a way to soothe this kind of fidget. And people do it with phones as well, you know, and it's less about the activity and more about the fact that they want to move their hands, basically. So finding something else that they can move their hands with, because that's quite a soothing mechanism for people, especially people that are prone to a little bit of anxiety, is finding something that they can fidget with. I had a client who took up knitting. I'm not advocating that everybody does that, but it's a way to do something. They wanted to incorporate something more creative. They tried the colouring books, but doing that in front of the TV with a loved one didn't quite work out. But something like knitting, or something that is more positive towards what they want to do long term, and doesn't just end up being dead space, dead energy, dead time that they kind of wish they got back. The other way that you can look at snacking with a loved one is a shared experience. And are there other ways that you can have a shared experience with your loved one that feels calm and soothing and just time together? So it's important to note that sometimes the rewards can be delayed. For example, going for a run, that might not give you an immediate reward, but the long-term reward will be better cardiovascular health, better physical shape, better confidence, feeling good about yourself, getting all those lovely endorphins that come along with that. So the trigger cue reward is simple, but it is a powerful concept if you are interested in learning a bit more about it. James Clear, the author, has a book called Atomic Habits, which is brilliant. And it really kind of fleshes out, it's like, what is this hand movement? It fleshes out the concept, if you would like to know more about the nitty gritty of it. So it'll kind of touch on how small changes in the cues and the rewards associated with a habit can lead to significant changes in your life, basically, how you view yourself. So what is a habit audit? Let's get down to business. So an audit, it's looking at everything. So this mightn't be for everybody, but for those of you that are serious, and committed to looking at your habits, and that have really identified that something's not quite going well, it is one of the best ways to actually give yourself the full picture of what's happening. Because I think sometimes there is a people tend to visualize things, think of things, and leave it up here. And the problem with leaving it up here is that memory is fallible. There's a little saying which I think goes, the faintest pencil is stronger than the strongest memory, or something like that. Me and sayings are not good. But basically, if you can jot it down, you will always have that. You will always have it. You won't have done the heavy lifting for nothing. So basically, conducting an audit of your habits is a way to gain insight into your behavior pattern. And it's how to understand the overall impact they are having on your well-being, on your life, on your identity, and how you view yourself. One way to do it is to keep a habit diary or a journal. If you're not a pen and paper person, I really am for some reason, which is odd because I would say I'm probably addicted to my phone. But for anything that feels like self-development and, really getting in the zone, pen and paper, and that kind of motor action of writing something out really has a profound effect on giving yourself space, time, and seriousness about your commitment to something. So if you're not somebody that jots down, just open up a folder on your phone and keep it just for that. If you're somebody that always has their phone on you, it might be a better way to do it. If you want to have a look at the journal and diary, it's a good way to get an overview without the kind of framed focus of a screen. It's a good way for you to look at something holistically and really properly get a sense of the bigger picture with stuff. So it can involve noting down everything you do. And I'm talking like, let's take 2 days of your life. One day is not enough really to get a good solid picture, but if you take 2 to 3 days, the more days the better, and really pop down every single thing you do from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, including the time, the location, and the emotions. This is important, the emotions associated with each behavior. Now, this might seem a bit extreme, but also, is it really that extreme to jot down 1 day, 2 days, 3 days worth of activities if you know it's going to have a massive, massive implemental impact on your behaviors, your identity, and your life? So, research has showed that self-monitoring, which is taking down notes of your own behaviors, including keeping a habit diary, is a crucial component to behavior change. The University of London found that self-monitoring can increase the likelihood of success in a behavior change program by up to 300%, which is massive. You know, it's 3 times the amount of a chance that you would give yourself for success. That is massive. It is invaluable, and it is worth just having your little notepad or your phone with a specific folder open for those 2 days. Once you've completed your habit diary, you can categorize your habits into 3 groups: helpful, unhelpful, and neutral. Now, I would say grab 3 markers of different colors, because you don't, when you open it up, especially if it's on the phone, which you'd have to code in some other way but markers. If you have a journal, getting something that's immediately recognizable without you having to read anything, because it's just going to look like a wall of text, immediately noticeable as unhelpful, let's say red, helpful, green, neutral, blue, something like that. And mark all of those. So once you have them all written in, you can highlight them, you can circle them any way that makes sense to you to categorize them into helpful, unhelpful, neutral. Helpful habits are those that align with your goals and values and who you want to be. They promote your overall well-being and they are moving you towards your goal. They are good things that we want to absolutely safeguard. The unhelpful habits then are those that are detrimental to your health, detrimental to your mental health. Are you going to feel bad? Are you going to feel ashamed? Are you going to feel guilty? Are you going to feel like you've wasted time? They're detrimental to your goals, your long-term goals, maybe your interpersonal relationships, and your physical well-being. Neutral habits then, as the name suggests, are somewhere in between. They're neither helpful or unhelpful. They just are things that you do. If you break down your habits into the 3 categories, you'll be able to identify the habits that are holding you back fairly immediately, and you can work on replacing them with habits that will drive you towards your desired goal. So it's important to note that the process of changing a habit is not always linear, and it will probably take several attempts. It'll take a little bit of frustration sometimes. Again, the University of London found that it takes an average of 66 days to form a new habit. Now, in saying that, that's a particular figure I got for this morning, but that changes exponentially depending on the individual, how committed you are to something and the complexity of the habit. Is it going to take 66 days to get really good at piano? Probably not. I mean, depends how long you practice, how long is a piece of string. But just in terms of how your brain adapts and integrates and creates a newfound self-identity, which I'd have touched on even, was it the first week of January, right before Christmas? Anything that fortifies your sense of I am. So I am a healthy person. I am somebody who plays the piano. I am looking after my me time. I am confident. Anything that really fortifies, any habits, any goals that fortify that, get integrated much, much better than something external that you are just doing. So a habit that can be tied to being is much, much more fortified and integrated than a habit just tied to an action you're doing externally. So those ones take a shorter amount of time to actually solidify into your being. So quick summary, because I know I've thrown a good bit out now this morning. So habits are a type of learned behavior that are categorized by their nature of repetition and being automatic. They're formed through a process known as habituation, so habituation, which is the repetition of a behavior that leads it to becoming automatic and performed without conscious effort. The key to replacing habits is to identify the cue and the reward associated with the habit, and then to find a new behavior that will provide the same reward. So thinking back on the couch and me time lady. By conducting the overall audit of your habits, you'll be able to identify the habits that are holding you back on your goals and who you want to be and how you want your year to go, and work on replacing them with habits that will drive you towards your desired goal. So finding things that will move you towards that and working on integrating them into your day-to-day. Reviewing your habits on a regular basis is important, and it'll allow you to see which habits are working for you, which ones aren't. And even, to be honest with you, even if you just get to the audit part, just get to recognizing things that are unhelpful, I promise you it will kick you into gear, because there is something really primal about just seeing the color markers and going, jeepers, I want to do so much with my finite time on this earth, and I'm wasting so much time and energy. I've done one of these, by the way, so this is personal experience. I'm wasting so much time and energy on things that are bringing me either absolutely nothing or actually detrimental to where I want to be. So I really, really recommend doing one of these if you are serious about specific goals that you have, if you're serious about behavioral changes towards adopting a set of behaviors that will really support you and make your life easier. Because if you're constantly fighting and are constantly giving time and energy to things that don't support you, you're going to find yourself in a mental battle with yourself going, God, why haven't I been more creative today? Why haven't I made more time for friends and family? Why haven't I made more time for food prep, for exercise? And you'll find weeks can roll by, months can roll by, years can roll by. And time is precious. And by doing something as simple as a habit audit, you can really, really give yourself a huge chance at giving yourself a way more fulfilling life. I have the sun in my eyes now, so apologies if I'm giving the squinty eyes to people. So yeah, really, really recommend it. If you are interested in it, just start today. Have your phone out, have your little notepad out, and try it out. So that is it for me for today. I am Chloe Tetro, the health coach here with Ready Care. Next week, Andrew will be back and we will chat to you 2 weeks from there. Have a lovely day and have fun experimenting with the different, with your different habits, and we will chat to you again. Bye now.